Committee for December 5th. Roll call, Ms. Jenkins?
Ms. Richards? Present. Mr. Toller?
Here.
Ms. Abrams? Mr. Westmoreland?
Present.
Mr. Duncan?
Here.
Mr. Anthony?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Piazza? Ms. Dominguez?
Here.
All right, we have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and start. Item 1A, discuss the construction of restrooms and the purchasing of bleachers for Kentwood High Magnet School to be paid for from ESSER funds. Mr. Valaruta.
Good afternoon, Board.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, this is just a discussion about Kentwood and refurbishing their football stadium. Currently, there's no ADA access into the stands. The restrooms are only on the home side. The visitor side has none of that. There's no ADA access to get to the restrooms,
Nope.
and there's no ADA access for them to be into the restrooms themselves and or get up into the stands. So ESSER has some funds for that. It's approximately $2.5 million for that out of ESSER, and so we're going to go forth. You know, this is just information to say, hey, we have those funds, and it's a long-needed project for that.
So we don't need any, do we need action to send it to the board tonight, or we just, this is a discussion? So I'll entertain any questions, or?
Does bleachers come out of ESSER funds?
Yes, ma'am,
I thought it had to be-
because they're going to be expanded, just in case if there's COVID again, then there'll be space enough for, and there's no ADA access. So it checks, it meets the
good.
qualifications for ESSER funds.
Ms. Janice?
Yes.
I knew you had something to say.
Tom and I we were at the game, we were looking at it, and we were trying to figure out how but it definitely needs to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, it is.
I wish there was a way, and I know, of course, this is not a definite, price tag or a definite pull the trigger on it, but I would like to see, the stands themselves look good. The aluminum bleachers, except for the getting in and out as far as ADA. I wonder if there's any way to maybe consider doing some retrofitting where we fix the bottom of it to where it's accessible. I don't know. It just seems like a lot of money I know it's a lot of money, but, it's a lot of work.
We can look at it, but what you're talking about, again, in refurbing something that's just standing there, your labor.
Right.
It's going to eat up to demoing and then fabricating and then going back, and the labor cost is going to push up close to that same number,
Right.
possibly.
And I was looking at the field Friday night. There's room on both sides for additional buildings. I just want, if we're talking about equality and equity and everything in the school system, at Sumner, we just built a new bathroom on the visitor side. It's a metal building on a slab, female, male side with a little concession stand. I wonder if that's something maybe we could get like a set plan and say, okay, we're going to build that. We'll put one on the visitor side, which would solve.
Well, it's also going to depend upon the approximate number that's going to be there.
Right.
There's a correlation of the stand size to the bathroom size.
Okay. I'm just throwing out options and throwing out thoughts.
And another question was that because we had so much problems with the water and the rain on the field,
Yes, ma'am.
are we going to be looking at any of that?
Yes,
when
ma'am.
we-
Actually, tomorrow, glad you brought that up. The drainage project, those bids come in tomorrow, and they'll be opened at 2:00 from the contractors, and that's incorporated, for all the drainage, and that survey can be used for this project.
Okay.
So that's
You
one.
can go ahead, Ms. Brett.
The bid for the actual construction on the,
Yes, sir.
to fix the hydrology
Yes, sir.
is being opened tomorrow?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, that's great news. I didn't know we were that far along. Okay, good.
My question is I know we're doing bleachers and restrooms, but there's some restrooms across our parish at a lot of our stadiums and a lot of our things that are kind of outdated. Are those going to be looked at as well for ESSER? Because
Yes, sir.
what I don't want to happen is we do it here and then we now have a Title IX issue, and because you did it for football, now baseball at Laranja, their bathrooms are decaying and spider webs and small. I just want to make sure if we decide to go forward with this that it's not going to create a can of worms and that we're looking, that we can use these funds for other programs that have the same issue.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, that's being considered for the bathrooms, and then looking at the deferred maintenance on all of our restrooms, and then prioritizing worst ones to better ones, working that plan, that program out.
Yeah, and I agree with Tom. I think having a set blueprint together to go across the parish, the same thing we've talked about with additions and stuff like that to schools, cuts down costs, and we're not having to sit here and tit for tat on, you know, are we adding this little nugget, or are we going to do this little design? Just have a set blueprint. Is that something we can look at maybe on this project, saying, hey, look, we just want our architects to draw up a simple, show me what you can build, and then that way we can mirror it across the district and see how we could disperse that to these other programs? Like, I know Laranja Baseball, their concession and bathrooms are connected, like they're all the same building, and they're running in the same kind of problem that Kentwood is. It's too small, they're not handicap accessible, it's one stall. I mean, it was built in the 60s, maybe even earlier than that, I'm not sure. I just want to make sure that we're doing it cost effectively across the district. We're not opening up a can of worms for like Title IX for somebody to say, oh, well, y'all did it in Kentwood, even though it is much needed over there, and I agree it should be done. I just don't want it to open up across the district, and now we find ourselves trying to find funds to do this. That's my only concern.
I'm sure that question will come up, and we'll have to address those as they come up.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, concerns, questions?
No, I mean, if we're gonna do that, then maybe we should look across the parish at all of the other, if you're gonna try to do something that mirrors what other schools have, that maybe we should take a look at that. And I don't know how, I mean, just as far, if nothing else, it's to see if we can fit those designs into what we're trying to do there,
Yes, sir.
you know.
Okay. Brett?
I think that's great to be thinking about what we need in the other districts, and we want to have equity. But I hope that none of those discussions hold up getting this project done. I hope we can, certainly we can be looking at those other questions while at the same time we can move forward with this and get it
Concurrent
done.
actions.
Yeah,
Yes,
we need
sir.
it. This needs to move forward.
So, Mr. Terry, so the plan would be to tear down what's there and build all new, or what is?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so both sides, or
Yes,
home
ma'am.
side?
Both sides.
Okay, so what Tom was saying about the bleachers, though, they're not, you can't just add a ramp and handrails or whatever, like,
If it
I'm
were
sure
that
we handed
easy,
handrails and stuff like that.
It doesn't appear to be just that easy, but we'll look at it while we're moving forward, because you're gonna have architect on board anyway to perform all this and look at it.
The hard part about it is in the stadium, when you walk up to the home stadium, you have to walk up 7 or 8 steps over and down, and now you're back on the ground walking in front of the bleachers. So someone in a wheelchair, someone having trouble walking, they can't even get,
You can't get up to the field either.
which, I mean, we understand bleachers are a
Yeah.
problem for ADA anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like somebody's gonna roll uphill and go up the bleachers, but there should be a level layer
Yeah.
with a ramp
Somewhere,
going up to
yeah.
a level layer across the front. And I just didn't know if that was something that could be added to the front of it or not,
Without tearing it all down?
without tearing it all down, but
Right. Yeah, right, and. right
I'm assuming
in
this is
that
something we're gonna turn
drawer.
over to maybe
Right.
to get architects to draw up a plan.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, and it's not that much.
At that point, I guess we
Just
could
a
look at
little.
options and see,
Just a little.
PCs and SDs.
right?
Is this going to increase the seating capacity or be similar?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if we're going to get, if we're going to be using ESSER funds, we may as well get new stuff. I mean, if it's not coming out of our budget, and furthermore, if it increases the size, and I think it's a no-brainer, so good.
Okay?
Are we gonna be able to use them bleachers somewhere else?
The ones you're
Possibly, yes, sir.
moving?
Ones that
We can definitely take a look at that for sure.
Move 'em? Right.
Move them,
Yeah.
Yes.
move them around.
Yeah,
and
we can
use them.
repurpose them. Yes, sir.
Probably out at OW Dillon, because we want to use that back.
I say you should move them to handles.
Nope. Too far, we'd have to pay for it to get way up.
construction standpoint, you're
I don't
gonna have a
know.
hard time finding somebody to take them down and put them back up.
Yeah, Hammond Eastside Upper's got that land in the back we could use to possibly make another field there, just saying, Brett.
Right.
That's a Hammond school, right?
Y'all are in the weeds.
You know?
Any other discussion, questions, thoughts? All right, hearing none, no action taken on this item. Move to item B, consider approval of Phase 2 architecture.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I would like to see this item removed from the itinerary for tonight, and my reasons for that. And I'd like to make a motion to remove it. Now, if we have to do that before we can discuss it, but
I guess you would say.
I feel that this is premature. You know, the selection of I'm sorry.
Are you making a motion to table?
I'm making a motion to table it.
Okay, well, first, let's get to, do we have a second to table
On which item? I'm sorry.
on item 2?
No.
The approval of
Okay.
Phase 2 architects.
I'll second it, so we can discuss it and see.
Well, motion to table is not debatable. So before you make the motion to table, can you explain why you want to?
Well, okay, yeah, there's a number of reasons, all right? We have, you know, the facilities assessment that is coming up that we still have to account for and present that before the judge. He's already ordered that we not do,
And you might.
okay, he's already ordered us that we not do any new construction, and so basically what this is a plan to do new construction. We don't know if we hire architects to plan out and develop plans for building the new constructions, if there was even going to be money, or if we're going to have to alter those plans once the judge has lifted the barring of building new construction. I think that it may even be kind of a slap in the face for him to order that we stop all construction and that we just keep planning. You know, we're spending money,
Hold up, I think we're getting into the discussion side of a motion to table.
Yeah.
yes.
So,
I mean,
You wanna keep it simple.
I'm just, yeah.
I want to keep it simple. You made a motion to table, so we got a second to table. It's a non-debatable motion, so we need to vote on it. This would be a motion to table this item on the agenda.
Voting is open.
No, Ms. Jenkins.
No, Ms. Jenkins.
Voting is closed. Motion fails.
Okay, so do I hear a motion for item 1B to consider the approval of Phase 2 architects?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
It was the motion to adopt the administration or the committee's recommendation?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Okay, yeah. I'll second it. I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So now we can discuss and get into
Yeah.
that. I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Jerry.
Okay. Okay, so since the motion to table it has failed, all right, I think it's probably redundant that I get into any of this, description or discussion about why. You know, I think I pretty much had gotten to the point of my perspective that this is going against the court order. So that's as much as I'm going to say about that. But also, I have a question about why it is that after the committee made decisions as far as the architects are concerned, why there was an amendment to the protocol for the way that the architects were selected or graded, why there was an additional exception made to remove the high and the low score, when that has not been how we have been deciding on architects in the past. It sounds a bit selective.
Aren't you on that committee?
I'm on that committee, and the decisions that we made are on the left side, I believe, or the,
But did you you went to the committee meeting where y'all came up with the ultimate?
yeah, I thought it was done.
Oh.
And we had selected,
So you're saying this has changed since the,
it has changed since we selected the architects.
Not since the last committee meeting. You were not at the last committee meeting.
So there what? Can I?
Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah.
Duncan.
All right. So first, I want to address the contention that this is out of line with the court order. I actually attended the court proceeding where the Phase 2 projects were presented to Judge Lamel. Judge, I believe Ms. Foltz, you were there too. Yeah. He approved us moving forward with the Phase 2 projects. He did ask that we do some other things while moving forward with the Phase 2 projects, but he approved us moving forward with the Phase 2 project, and specifically pointed out that it is in compliance, or what was contemplated as part of our final agreement. In fact, if anything, we should be further along in this process than we are. I don't believe that we are out of line with what the court approved. In fact, that issue of whether we should move forward with Phase 2 projects was extensively litigated. And like I said, we had a contested hearing on it. I think it went up on appeal, then came back from appeal, and then had another hearing on it. Moving forward with these projects is in compliance with what we said we were going to do in the final agreement. It's been fully litigated. The judge has approved it, and that ruling by Judge Lamel was not appealed a second time. This is, we ought to move forward. We should have moved forward sooner than we are. I can't speak to how the committee did there. I guess
Yeah, I can speak to that. With the committee, everybody did their assessments of the architects that had applied for that. Of course, you did yours, and I did mine, Mr. McNeely, Mr. Valaruta, Ms. Stilley. It took a lot of work to get that together. And with our meetings, the results ended up, I think we had a lot of jobs for going to one or two architects. So instead of trying to divide it out, and what our intention was, what I felt like our intention for the board was, we were trying to get a diverse group of architects to work on these projects, not put everything in one basket. So I think Mr. Duncan made the suggestion that taking out the high and low score for each firm, from each person, right, from each person?
for each project.
For each project, the high and low score for each project would give you a more varied, a wider range of architects to choose from. It would give you a top 5 per se. So that top 5 is what we used, and Mr. McNeely can answer that question, or Mr. Valaruta, as far as how we took the top ones of that, so each architect firm would have gotten one job of the top 5.
Okay, so how many architects were there that we chose from? About
Well,
20. That was more than 20.
It was a lot.
And I right. And the initial evaluation were a different group of architects. I see that now, since you've used that variable to go in and reassess the qualifications for the architects, that there are 2 local architects that are now included.
Right.
All right, so my opinion is that the process that we used to qualify the architects in the first round
Right.
were substantial and sufficient. I don't know why there was a variable thrown in there,
Right.
and so that is why I have a problem with going in and reevaluating. What prompted
reevaluate.
what prompted going in and doing a high-low extraction from the scores?
Because we felt like we wanted to we already have local architects that have done substantial work on some of these projects. And I knew from talking to some of the fellow board members that our committee is just a recommendation to the board. The board can take our recommendation, throw it to the side, and do whatever they want to do anyway. we wanted to bring something to the board that the board wanted to accept. And the board was not going to accept one that did not have our local architects in it, to be quite honest. Go ahead.
So this was basically just to make sure we included local architects.
Supposed to keep a diverse group
Can I
of
make a
architects
comment as
working
well?
hard.
Because there were at least 5 architects who qualified in the original assessment.
Mr. Duncan?
Yeah, so, a couple of points. Number one, this is the first, there's no prior precedence for us to rely on as far as this process is concerned. This was the first time that we had employed this process, so we're not doing anything that is out of precedence in the way that we did this. This is the first time to go through this process. Number two, the defined process was to send out requests for qualifications, to receive those qualifications, then to have a committee review all of those qualifications and score them. And then the final step before coming to capital outlay was to make sure that that same committee then had the opportunity to meet, go over their scores, and then after that meeting, make a recommendation to the capital outlay committee on how they wanted to proceed. That was the procedure that's outlined in the policy or the procedure. That's what was used. There was nothing as part of that policy that said that the scores were going to be definitive, that was going to remove the committee from using their judgment and what they recommended to the board. And there's nothing obviously also about that procedure that says that the committee or the board isn't the one that has the final say on who gets selected. There was never the intention, I don't think, of this board to just say, you know what, we're just going to turn this process completely over to 5 committee members, and they're just going to tell us how this is going to go. When we got the scores, the raw scores, I think it is true that a number of us on the board saw something in those raw scores where we felt that perhaps one of the scores was out of line with all of the other scores and maybe had some biases that needed to be addressed. And so the idea was presented, which again is not unusual. It's something that happens a lot of times in this process to try to eliminate biases, which is the idea of eliminating the high and low score and then re-averaging it out. And so that was an idea that was presented. The committee, when they had their meeting, I guess decided to go forward with that idea and then make the recommendations to the capital outlet committee. Again, I don't see any of that as being out of line, and if anything, the decision to do that makes the process more fair.
Right.
And that was something I wanted to echo. I honestly think by taking the high and low data, you're taking away any biases or skewed results because you're taking, it's just a mathematical equation at that point. Whereas if I'm on the committee and I don't like a particular architect or a particular contractor, I can tank their score and they're not going to get anything in Tangipahoa Parish. If I take the high or low, you can take that skewed data and give them a more average score throughout the architect. So I agree with the high or low. I'm neither here or there on what would have been, could have been, or should have been. I know it's being presented, and I'm okay with being presented. I'm kind of with Brett on the moving forward with phase 2 for 2 reasons. One, we're way behind the 8 ball. We have ESSER funds, which are running out of time. We have kids overpopulated in classrooms. And to be honest, I know that the judge may or may not want, new construction or anything beyond phase 2, but we owe our constituents, our faculty members, our students, a proactive plan to address growth and structural needs on campuses. And it's not just in certain areas that are getting those. There's areas in phase 2 where populations are getting new additions and new things across the parish. It is our job to make sure we're doing it in a timely manner, and I honestly believe we've been stalling on a lot of things. We're behind where we should have already been. Our phase 2 should have already broke ground, but because we redid the way we do architect firm, which again I think proactively trying to take away, you know, certain things from the process, I agree with. I voted yes to do it. But we are behind. And I can't see us going to a judge who wants to see progress in Tangipahoa Parish, both in our schools as far as academics and in the structures themselves, and say, well, we're not even going to put forth a plan to move forward with some new buildings or new architectural plans. We're not asking to break ground yet, but apparently we have approval to do so because it was already voted on by the judge prior to this. I think we just do a disservice not moving forward and getting that plan of action together. And again, as far as architects are concerned, I will always be a champion to keep local business owners in our processes here behind this board because they pay property tax here, they employ the people of Tangipahoa Parish, and they need to be involved in everything that we do as long as they are abiding by our policies and they are within budget reason to do so. And tell me if I'm wrong, they all charge the same price as an architect, correct? So I don't see the problem there. Now, if we were skewing the data and trying to make one person get it and they were paying significantly more, well, that's a different story, but I don't see that being the case here.
Okay, now, as far as biases are concerned, I think that probably what you're referring to is my disposition, because I've been openly and freely, you know, up to express that. You know, I do have a problem with the holdup, the hesitation, and the non-activity that I witnessed going on at the alternative school, and we have children in a warehouse right now that construction should have been finished by now. If I'm a contractor and I'm falling behind to meet my schedule, I'll bring in another crew. I'll increase the hours that the men work. I'll do things that make that happen. And so, yeah, that discourages me, you know, about the concern, you know, of the particular architects that I was dissatisfied with.
Some of those things may be falling on a contractor, not certain.
I know, Tom.
And also, there's contracts involved, and there's time. You know, there's times to do things, and you know.
And I'm aware. I've run into problems in construction, right. And you know, and had to go back and renegotiate for time and material, and you know, all of the other expenses. But I've not delayed the project. You know, my renegotiation has always been for the extra expenses that I'm going to occur in staying on track. and I did not see I didn't see a really focused or concentrated effort to get that done. And so now we still have children who are displaced. And this is the thing for me is that the reason we're all here, and I have to stay focused. This is all about children. You know, this is all about everything that we do here is to provide, you know, the best education for our children that we can possibly provide.
Absolutely.
And that includes facilities. I'm not against new construction, but what I am focused on is making sure that every child gets what they need. And yes, I'm discouraged, you know, by the contractor who did not focus on finishing. And I believe that, and just in my own experience, that it could have been done by now. It should have been done.
So the committee's recommendations at this point is NESM is for Coleman Partners Architects. Laranger is Gasaway and Bankston. Ponchatoula High School is Holly and Smith. Independence Leadership Academy is Greenleaf Architects. Chesbro is Alvin Fairburn and Associates. Those are the 5 recommendations from the committee.
Okay, Tom,
Yes,
can I say something? Because I'm still a little confused here. I'm one definitely that supports local contractors
Right.
too. Because like Joy says, you know, this is where we're getting the money to give more to our teachers and to our staff. Where my concern is with Mr. Moore saying that we're overstepping, and I think that that's where the confusing part is with the judge, because I guess we have different interpretations of what he said. One is saying that he said that he didn't want anything moved forward until these are taken care of, and then one is saying that he's already approved the phase 2. I think that we need to get some clarity there, and then tomorrow the hearing is about the assessment, right? Does that have any bearings on our phase 2? And
I'll let
will be
Mr.
done?
Duncan answer that, but I mean, as far as...
No, that's where my confusions are.
So, I did not interpret his ruling in that way at all. What phase 2 is specific projects that we envisioned as part of our final agreement, where the plaintiff's counsel has consistently, since the implementation of the alternative student assignment plan, said that we needed to have a program to get rid of as many temporary buildings as we could within our school system. So in the final agreement, we committed to developing a plan where we would build permanent structures to get rid of around, or hopefully around 75% of the temporary buildings that we had throughout the school system. The first portion of getting that done was in phase 1, which we have pretty much completed at this point. The second portion of getting that done was in phase 2. We developed that phase 2 plan. We originally submitted it for court approval a year ago. The court initially approved it. It then went up on an appeal. It came back for additional consideration, I think, with the court, and then the court gave final consideration at that hearing that the three of us attended. During that hearing, and there were other motions that were also pending as part of that hearing, but during that hearing, the judge said, I am approving phase 2. It is in compliance with what y'all said you were going to do in the final agreement. It achieves those purposes, but I do have these other concerns, and I would like a report from the school system on how you are going to address these other concerns. Some of them had to do with the Kentwood hydrology. Some of them had to do with wanting to see an additional assessment of other projects, or how we were going to deal with other concerns. You know, and we are presenting all of that information to the court, but he, I think, was very explicit in his approval of phase 2. Now, that's not to say that he won't change his mind tomorrow. I don't know that whether he will or he won't. But approving the architects, you know, if he does change his mind tomorrow, then we would have to deal with that. But I am more concerned about the fact that it has taken us this long to comply with his prior orders.
And I believe that is more in line with what the questions will probably be tomorrow.
Why haven't you done it?
Why haven't, we have agreed to do this. And I take from like what Mr. Moore is saying, I go the entirely different direction. I believe the judge is going to look at us and say, we had a plan. You had a plan. Why haven't you done this plan? And as we get closer to February or March, I have a feeling he's going to come back and say, where is your phase 2? Why didn't you solve this? And if we sit back and say, well, we were worried, we thought you didn't want us to do it. You know, this is part of a overcrowding strategy to solve overcrowding, nothing else.
Yeah, well, I heard him say, and I interpret it different than you, Brett, when he said he was stopping all new construction and he wanted this assessment done. And he said, go fix Kentwood, go fix the alternative school. I did not interpret what he said as being, well, I'd like to see. No, he said, I want a full assessment done. He did not give us a choice. He gave us a command. And another thing is that I don't see Woodland Park on this.
Woodland Park was already done, and
When?
it's already been, there's already an architect doing it. It's in the process. That's all.
But when it was taken off phase 1, I haven't seen it on phase 2, period.
It's phase, Woodland Park and Champ Cooper phase 2 is part of phase 2. Those architect contracts have already been sent out.
So what is
and
this?
they're all done.
What is this a part of?
These were the remaining architect selections of phase 2 that have not been awarded for
Okay.
architect contracts.
Yeah.
But Woodland Park is already done. Camp Cooper's already done.
All right, any other questions?
Call for a question.
Questions been called for.
Voting is open.
Yes, Ms. Cindy.
Voting is closed. Motion passes with Mr. Moore voting no.
Anything else we brought before capital outlay?
Just got a question for Mr. Terry. Where are we on the process of the air conditioners for the gyms? I know that was Esser, and I know we're on time on that too. Do you know where we are on that project? Thanks.
Joey, what did you ask? I'm sorry.
You asked
Where we were in the process of the air conditioners for the gyms. I know we had Esser money, and I just want to make sure we're doing it timely. So I just want to make sure we're kind
That
of.
was under the architect, the small architect projects.
Yeah.
And the contracts are getting ready to be signed, so.
Got it.
So I have also a question, Mr. Terry, about the schools that still have blue tarps on them. Did y'all sign the contracts for Perrin and the other schools that have been on hold this whole time? Well, Mr. Jeff told me that 2 weeks ago, that y'all were signing them on the next Monday, and that was 2 weeks ago.
And we found some errors in it, and they're being printed, some still like to sign them tomorrow.
It's pretty embarrassing, because I keep getting asked why we have blue tarps at Perrin and over. I've been asking this for over and over, and I'm just tired of asking this. So please sign the contract and get a new roof on Perrin.
First, we had to get through the FEMA obligation of money.
It's just like a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ms.
You're
Rose,
dealing
I
with
tell
federal
you,
dollars.
I had,
It's a lot of blue tarps that still,
I had certain people that came to me. Can you say something about Perrin?
I mean, it's ridiculous.
All right, nothing else, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.